here with Lawrence. Thanks for joining me today. We got a request to speak about how to deal with offensive people. So that's what the topic of this discussion is going to be. It's really about how do we deal with those offensive people that, come into our paths. It's either an offensive person or maybe an offensive remark that comes from someone you trust or you know. And really what I want to discuss today is how can we arm ourselves to be able to deal with these kind of situations a little bit more. So the three tools that I'd like to speak about today is the first one is put it into perspective. The second one, seek to understand. And the third is affirming yourself. So let's jump right in. Put it into perspective. I remember it must have been about 2 years ago when I was driving to work and it was a beautiful winter's morning. And I was driving in the third lane and out of nowhere this taxi comes through 2 lanes, pulls in front of me, stops, making me screech my brakes, picks somebody up, and as I try and go around him, he pulls in front of me again and drives on the highway. And if you live in South Africa, you know the frustration of when a taxi gets in your way, and I was furious and I was hooting, tooting as I drove past. I had all this colorful language and colorful sign language for him, and you know what? He just smiled and carried on. But that anger sat with me. And I got to work and I was just in this mode, and anybody who came into my office, I was short and I was snappy and I was upset. And eventually someone had the courage to just say, Lawrence, what happened? And I explained to him the story, and while I was spending about an hour indulging in all this self-pity for myself, he said, Lawrence, he's already taken your right of way. Does he deserve your happiness as well? And I was speechless. I thought, what a beautiful comment. He'd already taken my right of way. Does he still deserve my happiness? And I felt empowered. I really did. I felt like, right, I can still hold my happiness. He might have taken my right of way, and that's okay. But he can't take my happiness. That's a choice. That's me. And that's when I started to think about it in a perspective manner. And I said, in 2 months' time, in 2 years' time, is what this guy did to me going to matter? Obviously not. And if it doesn't matter then, should it matter now? Does he have the right to take my happiness? Do I have the right to give my happiness? There's a famous quote that says, offense is not given, but taken. Now, I know that sounds oversimplified, but I believe it's true, that people don't intend to offend us. I think they're just trying to get through their day. They're just trying to do the best they can. I've actually got a close friend who is a taxi driver, and he's starting his own business. What an amazing, inspirational guy. And he said to me that he would get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to be at the taxi rank at 2:30 to wait for 3 hours before the first rush of people came in. And he said it is such a cutthroat industry that you barely have enough money at the end of a 10, 12, 13-hour day to put food on the table. And I'm thinking, I would do the same. I would also pull in front of people to get there faster. That when did we start to see each other as more different than the same? If we were in the same shoes as these people, wouldn't we act the same? So maybe we're more similar than we're different. Well, that's my belief in anyway. So putting into perspective helps you bring this massive problem into something that's containable. So will your offensive remark or the person who offended you, will they matter in 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years' time? And if the answer is no, then should it matter now? And also look at the person who's offending you. Is it a partner? Is it a family member? Is it a friend? That's a little bit tricky. Is it a stranger who you'll never see again? Someone who you barely work with? Someone who you know from an acquaintance of an acquaintance of an acquaintance? No, they don't deserve any of your time, and they don't deserve your happiness. And that's something you hold. The second one is seek to understand. I had one of the most amazing experiences of my life last year. I was invited to a committee meeting of young black leaders, and it was fantastic. It was about 20 or 30 black guys that had come together, guys and women, that had come together and come to practice their speaking abilities, their debating skills, because they wanted to take South Africa to the next level. And what a beautiful opportunity. I was so grateful to go with. And they just wanted me to come and give my speaking expertise, maybe just give them some tips that I'd learned from Toastmasters and give them feedback, which I was happy to do. And as it started, I was amazed at the topics that they'd chosen and the eloquence of how they spoke. South Africa's in good hands, let me tell you. And one of the topics was so interesting. It was called black tax. Now, as a white South African, I had no idea what black tax was. I had no idea. I didn't even know that there was such a concept. And basically, for those of you who don't know, black tax is what young black men and women now call what they brought from apartheid. So apartheid was a terrible time that disadvantaged so many people, and now the repercussions are being felt, known as black tax. So for example, most black families grow up without the ability to pay for their kids to go to school, to be able to pay for a car, for a job. They have to take taxis to universities. It's unfathomable for me to experience a life like that or to know anything like that, because I've been very blessed in that way. And the more that I understood them, the more I could sense where this strong sense of almost anger came from. That apartheid wasn't just now buried in the sand. It's not now 20 years, guys, get over it. It's not like that. These guys are still feeling the repercussions and probably still will for another generation. We've got to be more sensitive. More sensitive to everybody, because everybody's feeling repercussions of their family, of their friends, of bad habits. Even the people who are being offensive to us are having repercussions of bad habits they've learned from their family, their friends. People aren't inherently bad. We learn. Monkey see, monkey do. We see our dad do something. We see our mom do something. We see our leaders, our friends, our family do things. We learn from them. So we're not offensive people. We're not ugly, bad, negative people. We just learn habits from people around us. And to be sensitive, to be loving, to be open, to be curious, to be loving of people, I think that's the instant cure to any kind of feeling that you're not worth, that you're not good enough, and that you deserve the offense. Seeking to understand what a powerful, powerful concept. I was very privileged to go to a hostel or a fraternity at varsity. And I remember I walked past one of the black seniors. And the tradition is when you walk past a senior, you greet them, no matter what. So I stood there and I did the traditional greeting, and he said, "No white boy is allowed to greet me." I was really offended, actually. I stood there and I thought, I'm trying to show you respect. And what's this now? And so I sucked up my pride and I went to his room a couple of days later, and I just knocked on the door and I said, I'm really sorry for what I did. I didn't mean to offend you. Is there a reason? Is it just me? Is it because I'm white? What's the situation? And he was really humble and actually such a nice guy. And he just said to me, "Lawrence, when I was in first year, I greeted an Afrikaans senior, and he told me no black boy deserves to greet me." Monkey see, monkey do. We see other people do it, and we do it ourselves. And as I started to speak to him and started to understand the frustrations and the anger that came from that day where the senior told him that he's not good enough to greet him, that he just brought that when I greeted him. And I was able to understand with empathy, with love, with curiosity, that he's not a bad person, he's just misunderstood. Seek to understand, because we've all got justification as to why we do things. And then the last one, and probably the most powerful one, is to affirm yourself. I believe, and this is just a personal preference, that offense comes from a lack of love that we have for ourselves. That offense is a feeling that we're not good enough. That if someone offends us, it means that we've done something wrong or aren't worth whatever it is that we're in, whatever situation we're in. If somebody offends us, we don't feel good enough about ourselves. Now, I'm getting quite sentimental, maybe quite psychological, and that's not my intention. My intention is just to say that self-love is a good thing. And it's okay to feel self-love, and it's okay to think, I am good enough, and that person's got a different view. That's okay. He's got the justification, he's got the background, the upbringing, whatever it may be to make him that person. I know what I believe, and that's okay. My belief is strong. And to affirm your beliefs, and to affirm your values, and to affirm yourself in situations where people disagree with you, it's not offense. It's what their perspective is. Because offense is kind of thinking, you're not the same as me, you're offending me, I need to defend myself. But if you're certain and you're confident in what you believe in, and you can see that person's got his own values, his own morals, and he's been brought up in that way, that's okay. So guys, in summary, 3 tools to help deal with offensive people, or offensive comments for that matter. Put it into perspective. So look at it in a long-term view. In 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, this is really going to matter. Who's the person giving you this offensive feedback? Is it someone that you trust, or is it a stranger walking by, and do they deserve your happiness? Second one, seek to understand, and I think that's a beautiful way of life, is to be curious. Is not to think that that person is wrong, but to find out, why does he think that way? Where does that belief come from? Is there a reason why he's justified this action to himself, and that it's not wrong, it's his way? And then affirming ourselves and bringing ourselves to self-love, to confidence, and to know that what we believe, what we think is right for us, and it doesn't have to be right for everybody else to be right, it's right for us. And guys, if you keep on with these tools, with these ideas, with these philosophies, you'll get to experience what we call changing the game. Guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and found some value in what I said. If you want to further your self-awareness and self-development and go on this journey with me, there are 4 things you can do. The first one is subscribe to my channel. The second one is go check out my Facebook or Twitter accounts. I do daily posts, maybe that could inspire you. You can go and check out my book on Amazon, Changing the Game, 10 Perspectives to Taking Charge of Your Life. And lastly, go check out my website, www.lawrencebull.com, to go and see my newsletter, other posts, and other things that might be of interest. Hope to see you soon. Bye.